stains the carpet in my mind. It's harmless. I tried to fight it, but drifted subconscious. What if I wait? What if I wait? It's breaking us. It's breaking us. Sleeping inside a coffin. I'll always be dead now.
It's Spiritual Sunday, and it's part 3 and probably the conclusion of the Cave of Treasures. How are you doing this evening, brother?
I'm good. It's nice and calm and quiet here. We rolled through all the crazy storms and tornadoes that took place over the last couple days.
Crazy
It
ones.
seems to be calming down.
Yeah. Well, they were here this morning. They're past us a little bit now, but yeah, the path up towards the cross of the eclipse, man, there is some tornado hail damage in that area. Bad. Really bad.
Yeah, and it could continue. We could see some more earthquakes, more aurora activity. We're watching. We've got our eyes to the skies. We're looking at everything. I'm sure you on the other side of the screen are also looking at all the going-ons and the protests and the end and the New World Orders, and it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, but there seems to be a lull. We've got Israel that their retaliation strike to all those supposed drones sent by Iran was pretty weak, inconsequential. So I don't know. We're always waiting to hear something about the red heifers. We are nearing the end of Passover week, and so the true Hebrew calendar, the day. The 8th day, Yahawashai's appearance day after the festival, that will be May 1st. All right, so May Day. There's a few headlines coming up for early May. We've got a Boeing thing that's supposed to be launched up to the ISS with a really bad track record. What else, headlines wise, have you seen going on lately?
Yeah, they got the whole Trump-Biden debate talk and leading up to the election. We've got the rise in I can't say emitisms because it will probably get banned if I say it too much. This is on YouTube. So there's that going on. There's so much. But again, like you had said, there's also a little bit of a lull. We did see some information, but it looked like it was a Russian misinformation site stating that they had actually sacrificed one of the heifers. I was already saying they probably did it on the red heifer sacrifice day. There was 3, now there's 2. They're probably, maybe it was disqualified. I don't know. But yeah, that's pretty much it. just the debate and, you know, the regular going-ons with Elon Musk supposedly going to space, and he's the freedom fighter, and, you know, the various topics like that. I will leave a link to the news of the morning show for the Team Yahawashai. I'll leave it the Rise and Grind link in the comment section below after this video.
Yeah, so nothing major to talk about headline-wise that I know of. If anybody in the chat knows of something, please share it and we can talk about it. But other than that, we've been reading the Cave of Treasures. So we had originally read this, and we read this on your YouTube channel, which YouTube stole from you. And on the day that you were supposed to have your strike clear and be in the clear, they took it from you on that day with a third strike. So shame on YouTube and everybody associated with those atrocities against free speech. But here we are. We're going to, you know, read it again. We're almost done with it. And what do you have to say about this book? You know, it sounds a lot like the 66 book canon. What do you get from this book that you enjoy, that's additional, that's extra?
Well, we get a little bit of more context from the Book of the Bee regarding Adam, his birth and death, and also parables for Christ and Adam's relationship as being like the same character, as well as Eve brought into the topic a little bit more, as well as the transportation of Adam's body down to the Golgotha site where Christ was crucified. All of that being extra canonical, extra descriptive, for me, really does help bring all the extra canonical books together with the regular books of the 66 canon. And there's so much more. You know, we're going to get into a little bit more detail. We're going to talk a little bit more about Melchizedek, which is, it's not that written about in the 66 book canon, besides Abraham still paying tithes and visiting them. We start to learn more about Shem, and I believe the destruction of the Tower of Babel. So there's going to be a few more things that we get insight into that help us to understand the greater story, to have a more detailed or a higher definition picture of what took place with the biblical history.
Yeah, and great news. Because there's these citations in the Cave of Treasures to the Book of the Bee, and you mentioned how hard it was to find this text, we had some people do their internet sleuthing and share the Book of the Bee. We've got the PDF, and we've read through it, and you know, a lot of the quotations are already in the Cave of Treasures here, but there's a whole lot more, so we'll probably end up reading the Book of the Bee sometime soon as well, right?
Yeah, I believe it was Solid Tank. I don't want to misspeak or incorrectly state, but it was using the Internet Archive website, which does have a lot of great stuff that you can get on there for free, PDF style, and I'm just grateful. I'm very thankful that more scriptures, more information, more knowledge. You know, I would love to get my hands on the book, and now we do have it. So super shout out to Solid Tank and everybody that does pitch in and tries to help this small but powerful team.
That's great. Anything else, or should we get into the part 3 of the reading of the Cave of Treasures?
Let's get into it. And everybody, thank you for tuning in. Please leave a comment and a like if you get anything from this content. Let us know how you feel and what spoke to you from the scriptures tonight.
Mind the roses on the lawn, I pass them on the highway. Dried up and short of broken glass, the colors climbing to the dirt. We're all just slowly gonna die here. So what's an hour really worth? Take the road you've never been down. Drive the heart until it hurts. We love and die, so here's to another fire, another line, another drink. We never mind, 'cause we'll be chasing it always. We'll be chasing it lost my highway.
And we are back.
What a track. You know, I'm so thankful to always have brand new music each and every week, sometimes 3 to 4 podcasts. We go deep into the new music. And again, we do that because we want to take the power back from the satanic New World Order music industry who only promote characters that have sold the soul. Now, that's not to say that some of the characters that you might hear on the content here haven't also made the deal, but we try really hard not to publish or to go into any of those avenues. And, you know, we would love to do more of a Christian-based music theme when we do these types of podcasts, but instantly they take us down.
That's you get the copyright takedown for the Christian stuff, right?
Yeah, so we just try to mix it up with what we find is, you know, the best, hottest new music. And the way we do it is we actually get the songs on here before YouTube has them in the system. So that's how we're able to play them without copyright.
Who else has got that? Nobody else has got that.
Shout out to the Goldsmith.
All right, so we are at Shem's commands to Melchizedek. This is how far we made it in part 2. And just to remind people, Shem is the first of Noah's kids. So there was Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And we covered the shaming of Noah and that kind of stuff that took place last week. That's covered in the 66 book canon. But here there's more information about this Melchizedek, who is a pretty mystery character in the 66 books. So we'll be able to see what else we can pick up here, right?
Absolutely.
All right, I'll start reading. And Shem said unto Melchizedek, Thou shalt be the priest of the Most High Yahawah, because thou alone hath Yahawah chosen to minister before him in this place. And thou shalt sit or dwell here continually, and shalt not depart from this place all the days of thy life. Thou shalt not take a wife, thou shalt not shave thy head, and thou shalt not pour out blood in this place. Thou shalt not offer up wild beasts, nor feathered fowl, but thou shalt offer up bread and wine always. I just want to remind everybody, we just did so Passover, the bread and wine covenant, right? The one that Christ did with the disciples right before his betrayal and being, put up on a torture stake and killed. So offer up bread and wine always was the command to Melchizedek. So he wasn't to be eating the beasts and that kind of stuff. And thou shalt not build a building in this place. And behold, the angel of the Lord shall come down to thee and visit thee continually. And Shem embraced and kissed Melchizedek and blessed him, and he returned to his brethren. And Malach, the father of Melchizedek, and Yozadkak, his mother, said unto Shem, Where is the young man? And he said, He died on the journey, and I buried him there, where he died, and they mourned for him greatly. Notes. The scribe's note says that in the manuscript of one of Melchizedek's father was called Harklem, and his mother this name, Melchizedek wore a tunic of skin and a leather girdle, and an angel dwelt with him and protected him and gave him food. When he was old, the kings of the earth heard his fame, and 11 of them gathered together and came to see him, and they entreated him to go with them, but he would not be persuaded. And when he did not conform to their wishes, they built a city for him there, and he called it Jerusalem. And the kings said to one another, This is the king of all the earth, and the father of nations. So just pointed,
right?
That skin and leather girdle, who does that remind you of?
That was Elijah and John the Baptist.
Exactly.
And also to point out, you even have symbolism with, the guard that stands at, you can't make them laugh or smile. So they have a lot of fairy tales and broken telephone stories that are actually taken from these scriptures.
Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark had a character that had to,
thing, right?
ageless, had to protect the ark, or the generations of Shem. And when Shem had lived 600 years, he died. And Arphaxshad, his son, and Salah and Eber, his sons, buried him. And Arphaxshad was 35 years old when he begot Shelah. And all the days of his life were 438 years, and he died. And Shelah his son, and Eber and Peleg buried him in Arpachsherath, the city which he built after his own name. We've got a note from the book of Adam. Shelah was 30 years old when he begot Eber, and all the days of his life were 433 years. And he died, and Eber his son, and Peleg, and Reu buried Hil in Shilehan, the city which he built after his own name. Eber was 34 years old when he begot Peleg, and all the days of his life were 464 years. And he died. And Peleg his son, and Reu and Serug buried him in Ibrin, the city which he built after his own name. Peleg was 30 years old when he begot Reu, and all the days of his life were 239 years, and he died. And they buried him in the city of Peleg, which he had built after his own name. The migration to the land of Centaur. And in the days of Peleg, all the tribes and families of the children of Noah gathered together, and went up from the east. And they found a plain in the land of Shinar. They all sat down there, and from Adam until this time they were all of one speech and one language. They all spake this language, that is to say, Syrian, which is Armenian, and this language is the king of all languages. Now ancient writers have erred in that they have said that Hebrew was the first language, and in this matter they have mingled an errant mistake with their writing. For all the languages there are in the world are derived from Syrian, and all the languages and books are mingled with it. In the writing of the Syrians, the left hand stretched out to the right hand, and all the children of the left hand, the heathen, draw nigh to the right hand of Yahawah. Now with the Greeks and Romans and the Hebrews, the right hand stretched out to the left. But Hebrew and Syriac are written from right to left, but Greek and Latin from left to right. And in the days of Peleg, the tower which is in Babel was built, and there the tongues of men were confounded. A marginal note says the division of tongues took place at midnight, and from that place they were scattered over the face of all the earth. And that place was called Babel, because tongues were confounded there. We've got a note here. And after the division of tongues, Peleg died in great sorrow, and with tears in his eyes and grief in his heart, because in his days the earth was divided. And his son Reu and Serug and Nahor buried him in Pelgathan, the city which he had built after his own name. And there were 72 tongues in the earth, and 72 heads of tribes or families, and each tribe and tongue made unto themselves a chief like a king. The prosperity of Japhet. And the seed of Japhet became 37 nations and kingdoms: Gomar, Yawan, Madhai, and Tubal, and Mashka, and Tyres, and all the kingdoms of Lani. And these are the children of Japhet. Another list gives the Goths, Galatians, Medes, Greeks, all these different peoples in the book of the Bee. And the sons of Ham, Cush, Nubia, and Egypt, and Pat, and Canaan, and all their children. And the sons of Shem, the Elamites, Assyrians, Persians, Lud, Armenes, Damascenes, and Haranites, and all their children. Now the children of Japhet clung to the borders of the east, from the mountain of Nod, which is on the confines of the east, to the Tigris and the confines of the north, and from Bactria as far as Gadaria. And the children of Shem held from Persia in the east as far as the sea Tedrasknos in the west. Unto them belongeth the middle of the earth, and they held sovereignty and dominion therein. The children of Shem occupy all the southern and a little of the west quarter. And Reu lived 32 years, and begot Serug. And in the days of Reu, in his 130th year, Nimrod, the mighty man, the first king on the earth, reigned, and he reigned 69 years. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel. This Nimrod saw the figure of a crown in the heavens, and he called Sisson, the weaver, who wore a crown like unto it, and he set it on his head. And because of this, men used to say that the crown came down to him from heaven. Note, Nimrod became so wicked that he thought he was God.
Sounds like Elon Musk.
In the days of Reu, the third 1,000 years came to an end. So we got to a chapter marker there, the end of the third 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
You want to take over, brother?
Sure. And the 4,000 years from the reign of Reu to the 26th year of the life of Ehud. And in the days of Reu the Mazari, who are the Egyptians, appointed their first king, and his name was Puntos, and he reigned over them 68 years. And in the days of Reu, a king reigned in Seba, and in Ophir, and in Havilah. And there reigned in Saba 60 of the daughters of Saba. And for many years women reigned in Saba, until the kingdom of Solomon, the son of David. And the children of Ophir, that is Scandia, appointed to be their Laufenberg, who built Ophir with stones of gold. Now, all the stones that are in Ophir are of gold. And the children of Havilah appointed to be their king Havel, who built Havilah, that is India. Notes, the first king, I don't know if that's an important one. And Reu died, being 239 years old. And Serug, his son, and Nahor and Terah buried him in Eror in the city which he built after his own name. And Serug lived 30 years and begat Nahor. And all the days of his life were 230 years. And in the days of Serug, the worship of idols entered the world. And in his days, the children of men began to make for themselves graven images. And it was at this time that the introduction of idols into the world took place. For the children of men were scattered all over the earth, and they had neither teachers nor lawgivers, and no one to show them the way of truth wherein they should walk. And for this reason they became confused and fell into error. Some of them through their error and adored the heavens, and some of them worshipped the sun, and the moon, and the stars, and some of them the earth, and wild beasts, and birds, and creeping things, and trees, and stones, and the creatures of the sea, and the waters, and the winds. Now Satan had blinded their eyes, so that they might walk in the darkness of error, because they had no hope of a resurrection. For when one of them died, they used to make an image of him and set it up upon his grave. It's interesting that this is what we do now, right? So that he be remembered of his appearance. Well, I guess we don't put a picture on everyone's gravestone. Might not pass before their eyes, an error having been sown broadcast in all the earth. And the land became filled with idols in the form of men and women. And then Serug died, being 230 years old, and Nahor and Terah and Abraham and his sons buried him in Sanguine, the city which he had built after his own name. So now we've got the name Abraham, or it was Abram to begin with, son of Terah. So we've made it from Noah. Now we're hearing about Abraham, who is the father of the covenant. Let's keep going here. And Nahor was 29 years old when he begat Terah. And in the days of Nahor, in the 70th year of his life, Yahawah looked upon the children of the men and saw that they were worshiping idols. And a great earthquake took place. And all of their houses were overturned and fell down. But the people did not understand within themselves, and they added to their wickedness. And Nahor died, and he was 147 years old. And Terah, his son, and Abraham buried him. Terah was 75 years old when he begot Abraham. We get more notes here. Wind flood, storehouses of the wind, And Terah was 75 years old when he begot Abraham. And in the days of Terah, in his 90th year, sorcery appeared on the earth and in the city of Ur, which Haran, the son of Abihar, built. Now, there was in that city a certain man who was very rich, and he died at that time. And his son made an image of him in gold and set it upon his grave. And he appointed it there a young man to keep guard over it. And Satan went and took up his abode in that image. And he spake to the youth, the son of the rich man, and after the manner of his father. And thieves went into his house and took everything that the youth possessed. And he went out of the tomb of his father weeping. And Satan spake unto him, saying, Weep not in my presence, but go and fetch thy little son, and slay him here as a sacrifice unto me. And forthwith everything which thou hast lost shall be returned me here. And straightway the youth did as Satan told him, and he slew his own son, and bathed in the blood. And Satan went forth immediately from the image of gold, and entered into the youth, and taught him sorcery, and enchantments, and divination, and the lore of the Chaldeans, and how to tell fortunes, how to forecast events, and how to foretell destinies. And behold, from that time the children of men began to sacrifice their son to devils and to worship idols. For the devils entered into the images and took up their abodes therein. We get another note here, going into more of the type of Satanism. And then we get on here, and in the 180th year of the life of Nahor, when Yahweh saw that the children of men were sacrificing their sons to devils and worshiping idols, he opened the storehouses of the wind. And the gate of the whirlwind and a blast of wind went forth in all of the earth, and it uprooted the images and the places where offerings were made to devils. And it swept together the idols, the images, and the pillared buildings in a heap, and piled them up in great mounds of the earth over them. And I do believe there are places where they do have this. I believe it shows up in Chinese and Japanese lore, but there's probably more. And they are there to this day. Now, to this blast of wind, learned men have given the name of wind flood. But certain who have erred in this, these mounds existed already in the days of the flood waters. Now those who have said these things erred greatly from the truth. For before the flood of the waters, there were no idols on the earth. And it was not because of the idols that the flood came, but because of the fornication of the daughters of Cain. And moreover, at that time there were no men on the earth, which was a waste and desert. And our fathers were cast forth in days of old, as it were in exile, because they were not worthy to be neighbors in paradise, of paradise. And through the ark they were driven forth to the mountains of Cardo, and from there they were scattered about throughout all of the earth. For these mounds came into being because of idols, and in them are buried the idols of that time. And all the devils also who dwell in them are these mounds. And there is no mound with hath not devils in it. And in the days of Nimrod, the mighty man or giant, fire appeared, which ascended from the earth, and Nimrod went down and looked at it and worshipped it. And he established priests to minister there and to cast incense into it. And from that day, the Persians began to worship fire. And they do so to this day. And Sisan, the king, found a spring of water in Drogin, and he made a white horse and set over it. And those who bathed in the water used to worship the horse. And from that time, the Persians began to worship that horse, according to the book of Adam. And the horse was made of gold. And Nimrod went to Yakadora and Noda. And when he arrived at the lake or sea of Atraz, he found the youth Yantan, the son of Noah. And marginal note, the Syriac adds that Noah begat Yantan after the flood, and he honored him in many things, and sent him to the east to dwell there. And Nimrod went down and bathed in the lake, and he came to Yantan, and did homage unto him. And Yantan said, Thou art the king. Doest thou homage unto me? And Nimrod said unto him, It is because of thee that I have come down here. And he remained with him for 3 years. Yantan taught Nimrod wisdom and the art of divining revelations. And he said unto him, Come not back again unto me. And when Nimrod went up from the east, he began to practice these arts of divination. Very many men marveled at him. When in Adrashar, the priest who ministered to the fire ascended up from the earth, saw that Nimrod was practicing these exalted courses, he entreated the devil who appeared in connection with that fire to teach him the wisdom of Nimrod.
And as the devils were in the habit of destroying those who came nigh unto them by sin, the devil said unto the priest, A man cannot become a priest and a Magi until he hath known carnally his mother and his daughter and his sister. And Idishahar, the priest, did this. And from that time on, the priests and the Magians and the Parisians take their mothers and their sisters and their daughters to wives. And Ishidar and Maigan was the first begin to study the signs of the zodiac concerning the luck and the fate and the happenings and the motions of the eyes and the eyelids, as well as all the other arts of learning of the Chaldees. Now, all this learning is the error of devils, and those who practice it shall receive together with the devils the doom of the judgment. And because this art of divination, which was employed by Nimrod, was taught to him by Yantan, none of the orthodox doctors have suppressed it. Nay, they have even practiced it. Now the Parisians call it Giliana, or revelation, and the Romans Astronomiano, or astronomy. But that knowledge which the Magians have via astrology is sorcery and teaching of devils. They are the same who say that it doth indeed to teach concerning luck and happenings, i.e. future events and fate, but these are in error. Now Nimrod builded strong cities in the east, Babel and Nineveh, and Rasan and Rasaian, and Salek and Cilicia, and Cestifion and Adahaber Iagan, and he made there 3 fortresses. Now, what I want to point out here is what they were learning was the power of manifesting. So they said that you can liken things up in the sky to different fates to happen, knowing that people have the ability to will manifest or actually wish things into existence. That's why Christ was teaching us to constantly be guarding our thoughts, guarding every single word that passes through our mouths, right down to everything that we want to do concerning ourselves. He said, if you want something, therefore give great thanks for it, that you shall receive it. So he taught us the correct and true way to manifest. And what these demons did was they came down and taught the unrighteous way and the satanic manifestation of using the celestial bodies as a modes of divination. And you'll have people like Truth Frequency Radio with Sherry Geo and many other witches and warlocks, as they call themselves, that do this type of practice. And really what they do is they sometimes use search engines to gain information on people, or they do use demons, and the demons do lie. So I don't know, Jason, if you want to take over here at the history of Abraham.
Yeah, so that was the history of astrology and magicians, huh?
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah,
but not cool.
Context. Not cool. Very wicked. Not good wicked.
Share the screen with you. The history of Abraham. And Terah, the father of Abraham, lived 250 years, and he died. And Abraham and Lot buried him in Haran. And there Yahawah spoke unto Abraham, and said unto him, Get thee forth from thy land, and from among thy people, and come to the land which I will show thee. And Abraham took his household, Sarah his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and he went up to the land of the Amorites. And he was 75 years old when he crossed the desert from the Euphrates. And he was 80 years old when he pursued the kings and rescued Lot his brother's son. I've got a note here. When still a boy, Abraham had no belief in idols, and according to this, when he was 12 years old, his father sent him to sell idols. And Abraham said, These are not gods that can make deliverance. And he took away the idols to sell, even as his father had commanded him. And he said unto those unto whom he would sell them, Do ye wish to buy goods that cannot make deliverance? Things made of wood and stone and iron and brass, which the hand of an artificer hath made? And they, the people, refused to buy the idols from Abraham, because he himself had defamed the images of his father. An old tradition says the Terah made idols of mud, and it is possible that some of these may be represented by the terracotta figures of gods and goddesses, which have been found in such large numbers in recent years at Ur and other ancient sites in Babylonia. And as he was returning, he stepped aside from the road, and he set the image down and looked at them, and said unto them, I wonder now if ye are able to do what I ask you at this moment, and whether ye are able to give me bread to eat or water to drink. And none of them answered him, for they were pieces of stone and wood, and he abused them, and heaped revilings upon them, and they spake never a word. And he buffeted the face of one, and kicked another with his feet, and a third he knocked over, and broke to pieces with stones. And he said unto them, If ye are unable to save yourselves from him that buffeteth you, and ye cannot requite with injury him that injureth you, how can ye be called gods? Those who worship you do so in vain, and as for myself, I utterly despise you, and ye shall not be my gods. Then he turned his face to the east, and he stretched out his hands and said, Be thou my Elohim, O Lord, creator of the heavens and the earth, creator of the sun and moon, creator of the sea and the dry land, maker of the majesty of the heavens and the earth, and of that which is visible and that which is invisible. O maker of the universe, be thou my Elohim. I place my trust in thee, and from this day forth I will place my trust in no other save thyself. And then there appeared unto him a chariot of fire which blazed. And Abraham was afraid, and fell on his face to the ground. And Yahawah said unto him, Fear thou not, stand upright. On the day of the birth of Abraham, the house shone with a bright light. Many people fell down, and there was a cry in a loud voice which said, Woe is me! Woe is me! For he who shall crush my kingdom hath been born. And he who cried out wept, and described the events which should take place, saying, It is he who shall burn down my abode. And there were among the people certain men who said, Kill this child forthwith. And those who spake thus knew well that the grace would be given to Abraham. And God sent mercy in the heart of the father of Abraham, and he said to the Satans, Whence come ye? O ye who tell me that I should kill my son, who is a gracious gift of Yahawah. And he reared to the child, and Abraham was circumcised by the hand of Gabriel and Michael, who helped him, from the book of the mysteries of heaven. Abraham and Melchizedek. And at that time Abraham had no son, because Sarah was barren. And when he returned from the battle of the kings, the agency of Yahawah called him, and he crossed the mountain of Jebus, and Melchizedek, the son of Shalem, the priest of the Most High, Yahawah, went forth to meet him. And when Abraham saw Melchizedek, he made haste and fell upon his face, and did homage to him. And he rose up from the ground, and embraced him, and kissed him, and was blessed by him. And Melchizedek blessed Abraham. And Abraham gave Melchizedek tithes of everything which he had with him, and Melchizedek made him to participate in the holy mysteries of the bread of the offering and the wine of redemption. All right. Ding, ding, ding. That's what we just went through.
It's a big time.
With the Last Supper meal. And after Melchizedek had blessed him and made him to participate in the holy mysteries, Yahawah spake unto Abraham and said unto him, Thy reward is exceedingly great, since Melchizedek hath blessed thee, and hath made thee to partake of bread and wine with him. I also will assuredly bless thee, and I will assuredly multiply thy seed. And when Abraham was 86 years old, Ishmael was born to him by Hagar, the Egyptian woman whom Pharaoh had given to Sarah as a handmaiden. Now Sarah was the sister of Abraham on the father's side, because Terah took 2 women to wife. When Yanu, the mother of Abraham, died, Terah took to wife a woman whose name was Salamath, or Tona, or Tadith, and of her Sarah was born. It was because of this fact that Abraham said, She is my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. The birth of Isaac. And Abraham was 99 years old when Yahawah went into his house and gave Sarah a son, and he was 100 years old when Isaac was born to him. And Isaac was 13 years old when his father took him and went up to the mountain of Jebus to Melchizedek, the priest of Yahawah the Most High. Now Mount Yabus is the mountain of the Amorites, and in that place the cross of Christ was set up. And on it grew the tree which held the ram that saved Isaac. In that same place is the center of the earth, and the grave of Adam, and the altar of Melchizedek, and Golgotha, and Karkaphta, and Gabbatha. And there David saw the angel bearing the sword of fire. There too Abraham took up Isaac his son for a burnt offering, and he saw the cross and Christ, and the redemption of our father Adam. The tree thicket was a symbol of the cross of Christ our Lord, and the ram caught in its branches was the mystery of the manhood of the Word, the only one. And because of this, Paul cried out and said, if they had only known it, they were not crucifying the Lord of glory. Let the mouths of the heretics be stopped, who in their madness impute passibility to the eternal Elohim. Now when Christ was 8 days old, Joseph, the betrothed of Mary, rose up to circumcise the child according to the law, and he circumcised him according to the custom that was the law. In like manner, Abraham took up his son as an offering, but he at the same time foresaw in this act the crucifixion of Christ. And this thing did Christ openly proclaim before the multitudes of the Hebrews, saying, Abraham your father wanted to see my days, and he saw and was glad. Abraham saw the day of the redemption of Adam, and he saw and rejoiced, and it was revealed unto him that Christ would suffer on behalf of Adam. You want to take over here at the founding of Jerusalem?
That's some great extra canonical stuff right there. Sure, one second. So now we're actually getting the redemption of Adam. Which chapter? I think I had the genealogies of the tribes. Which one did you say?
The founding of Jerusalem.
Founding of Jerusalem. I went way too far down. Founding of Jericho?
Maybe a little higher.
Am I screen sharing?
Not yet. I was...
Okay, 1 second. I'm at Melchizedek. Names of the founding of Jerusalem. Here we go. Let me get this screen shared up.
There we go.
Is this correct?
Yeah.
In that same year in which Abraham offered up his son as an offering, in that same year, I say, Jerusalem was built, and the beginning of the building thereof was in this wise. Melchizedek, having appeared and shown himself to men, the nations heard his story, and they gathered together unto him. And the names of the kings who built Jerusalem: Abimelech, Amaraphel, Arioch, Cardala, Tariel, Bara, Barasha, Shanaba, Shanmarar, Salaka, Tabelka, and Baktor, the king of the desert. These 12 kings gathered together and came unto Melchizedek, the king of Shalom, the priest of the Most High Elohim. And when they saw his appearance and heard his words, they entreated him to go with them. And he said unto them, I am not able to go from this place to any other. And they took counsel together at a building about building him a city. And they said unto each other, quote, verily, he is the king of the whole earth, and the father of all kings. And they built him a city and made Melchizedek to live in it. And Melchizedek called the name thereof Jerusalem, or Jerusalem. And when Magonacha, the king of the south, heard of this, he came to him and saw his appearance, and spake unto him, and gave him offerings and gifts. And Melchizedek was held in honor by all, and he was called the Father of Kings. Now, as concerning what the apostle said, there was no beginning to his days and to no end of his life. It has been thought by simple folk that he was not a man at all, and in their error they have said concerning him that was an Elohim. But Yahawah forbid that there should have been no beginning to his days or end to his life. And the apostle spake thus, because when Shem, the son of Noah, took away Melchizedek from his parents, no word is said to us how old he was when he went up from the east. And it is not said how old he was at the time of his departure from this world. Now he was the son of Malachah, the son of Aphrachar, and the son of Shem. And he was not the son of one of the patriarchs. And the apostle said that none of his father's families ever ministered by the altar, and the name of his father is not written in the genealogy. So that's how you get the different writings about the mystery behind Melchizedek. Now we have Qumras. And in the 180th year of the life of Abraham, there was a king in the east whose name was Qumras. He built Samosada after the name of his son Shamosada, and Claudius, and after the name of his daughter Cladoha, and Perin after the name of his son Poran. And in the 50th year of his life, Reu and Nimrod went up and built Nisibis, and Edessa, and Haran, which is Edessa, and Haranith, the wife of Dasan, the priest of the mountain, surrounded it with a wall. And all of the people of Haran made a statue out of her and worshipped it. And Baltan, who was given to Tammuz, now became Balishaman, loved her. Tammuz fled before him and set fire to Haran and burned it. The death of Sarah. And when Sarah, the wife of Abraham, died, Abraham took to wife Kentorah, the daughter of Bactor, the king of the desert. And there were born unto him and her Zamran and Yakashan and Madahan and Madian and Ashabak and Shaho. And a marginal note says in the Syriac, these sons of Kenato are also called the sons of Daran, the prophets. Oh, Arab people, they're saying. And when Isaac was 40 years old, Eleazar, the son of the house of Abraham, went down and brought Rebekah from the east, and Isaac took her to be wife. So now we've got Isaac, who was offered up. They're saying on the same place that Christ gave his life. We're seeing a reference to the father and son characters here, with Abraham being the dad and the son character being Christ. Now we're getting more story on to Isaac, right? Of Jacob. So here we go. And when Abraham died, Isaac buried him by the side of Sarah. We got a note here. And when Isaac was 60 years old, Rebekah became with child of Esau and Jacob. And being sorely afflicted, she went to Melchizedek, and he prayed over her and said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 peoples shall be removed from thy loins. That is to say, shall go forth from thy womb. 1 nation shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall be in subjection to the younger. That is to say, Esau shall be in subjection to Jacob, which is a, parabolic language, as we can see between the 3 dispensations, the old covenant, or the dispensation of the father. Then you have the new covenant, the dispensation of the son, who Jacob was characterized. And we continue on here. We also have the parabolic to Cain with Abel, continuing that. And in the 60th year of the life of Isaac, Jericho was built by 7 kings, namely the king of the Hittites, and the king of the Amorites, and the king of the Garganites, and the king of the Jebusites, and the king of the Canaanites, and the king of the Hittites, and the king of the Perizzites, and each of them surrounded it with a wall. Now the son of Mazaraim, the king of the Egyptians, had founded Jericho in olden times. And Ishmael made a mill of the hands, a hand mill, and in the desert a mill of slavery, or a mill to be worked by slaves. Now we get Jacob's ladder. And 1 second, this is more interesting extra-canonical stuff. And I know this is a quite famous one. And in the 103rd year of his life, Isaac blessed Jacob, who was 40 years old. And having received the blessing from his father, he went down into the desert of Beersheba and lay down to sleep there. And when he was lying down, he took a stone and made a pillow of it. And there he saw in a dream, and behold, a ladder was set up upon the earth, and the top of it was up into the heavens. And the angels of Yahawah were going up and coming down. And the Lord stood at the top of it. And Jacob woke up from his sleep and said, "This is truly the house of Yahawah." And he took the stone of the pillow and made it an altar, and he anointed it with oil. And he vowed a vow and said, "Of everything which I have will I tithe for this stone." Now it is manifest to those who possess understanding that the ladder which Jacob saw symbolizes the redemption or the cross of Christ, the Redeemer. And the angels who were going up and down were the ministers of Zechariah and Mary, and the Magi and the shepherds, and the Lord who was standing at the top of the ladder symbolized Christ, who stood on the cross that he might go down to redeem us. So he was basically getting that picture, right? Jacob. Power of Yahawah was upon the top of the ladder. We'll get down here. Jacob and baptism. And when Yahawah had shown the blessed Jacob the cross of Christ by means of the ladder of the angels, and the coming down of Christ for our redemption, and the church and the house of Yahawah, and the altar by means of the stone, and the offerings by the means of the tithes, and the anointing by means of oil, Jacob again went down to the east, that there Yahawah might show him baptism. And Jacob looked and saw and beheld their flocks of sheep laying down by a well. And there was a great stone placed over the mouth of the well. And Jacob drew nigh and rolled away the stone from the mouth of the well, and watered the sheep of his mother's brother. And having watered the flocks, he took Rachel and kissed her. Now, by well, the blessed Jacob indicated or depicted baptism, with which is covered over, or from the races of men, the generations of the tribes and the 3 flocks of the sheep, which were laying down by the wall, were 3 types of divisions and 3 groups. We get the old dispensation, or the group of the Father. The second dispensation was the covenant of the Son, the bread and wine. And the third dispensation is the remembrance of all, and that brought forth by the Holy Spirit. And we're getting this all broken down here in the way that the flocks were being watered through the first baptism typology. And it says, for baptism, namely men and women and children, and that Jacob saw Rachel coming with the flocks, and that he neither embraced her nor kissed her until he had rolled away the stone from the well. 1 second. This is where was I? And she had watered the flocks in accordance with the law of the sons of the church, who neither embraced nor kissed the Lamb of Christ until baptism hath opened the way. And they go down into the waters and put on strength from them. And then the sons of the church embrace and kiss. And Jacob served with Laban for 7 years. And the woman he loved was not given unto him. So also was it with the Hebrews, who served Pharaoh, king of Egypt, in slavery, and went forth. For the covenant of the church, the bride of Christ, was not given unto them, but the covenant which was old, or worn out, and of no effect. Now the eyes of Leah, the first woman whom Jacob took to wife, were hateful, whilst the eyes of Rachel were beautiful, and her countenance was radiant. A covering or a veil was laid over her face for the first covenant, so that the children of Israel might not see the beauty thereof. As for the second covenant, it is holy light. I'll read a little bit more. Jacob was 77 years old when he received the blessing of Isaac his father, and he was 89 years old when he begot Reuben, his firstborn by Leah. The sons of Jacob are these: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun. These are the sons of Leah. Joseph and Benjamin were the sons of Rachel. Gad and Asher and Zipporah, the handmaiden of Leah. And Dan, Nephtali, were the sons of Bilhah, the handmaiden of Rachel. And after 20 years, Jacob returned to Isaac his father, and all the days of his life of Isaac were 180 years, until the 31st year of the life of Levi. And he died in the 120th year of the life of Jacob. 23 years after Jacob went up for Haran, Joseph was sold to the Midianites, and he was sold during the lifetime of Isaac, and they mourned for him. When Isaac died, Jacob, Esau, and his sons buried him with Abraham and Sarah. 7 years later, Rebekah died, and she too was buried with Abraham, Isaac, and Sarah. And Rachel died and was buried with them also. And Judah, the son of Jacob, took unto himself the wife Shua, the Canaanites. And his father was grieved because he had taken to wife a woman of the seed of Canaan. And Jacob said unto Judah, May the Lord of Yahawah our fathers, Abraham and Isaac, not permit the seed of Canaan to be mingled with our families. And there were born unto Judah Shua, the Canaanite woman, Onan, and Shelah. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn Tamar, and he consorted with her unilaterally, and Yahawah put him to death. And Judah gave Tamar to Onan, and as soon as his seed became available for Tamar, he wasted it. And him also did Yahawah put to death. Thus, Yahawah did not permit the seed of Canaan to mingle with the seed of Jacob, even as Jacob prayed Yahawah that the seed of Canaan, the firstborn of the lascivious man, Ham, lascivious ham might not be mingled among the generations of the fathers. And Yahawah made Tamar to go out to the roadside, and Judah lay with her in the name of passion of fornication, and she conceived and brought forth Perez, or Zerahah. So that's how it ended up keeping the Canaanite seed out. I guess you want to take over Jacob in Egypt.
Sure. Jacob in Egypt. And Jacob and all his descendants went down into Egypt to Joseph, and he lived in Egypt 70 years. And Jacob died, being 140 years old. And Joseph was 56 years old when his father died, in the 12th year of Kahath. And the wise physicians of Pharaoh embalmed him. And Joseph took him up to Canaan and buried him with Abraham and Isaac his father. The genealogies of the tribes and the children of Israel. Now there are certain doctors who trace the genealogies of the tribes from the death of Jacob, and who mix them together, but they do not do this in the light of knowledge. They set in the midst two genealogies, one of the tribes and the other of the children of Israel. Now fix thine attention on these generations and how they became mixed together. When they went forth from Egypt, Judah begot Pharez, Pharez begot Hezron, Hezron begot Aram, Aram begot Amminadab, Amminadab begot Nahshon, and Nahshon was he who became prince of Judah. And Amminadab gave the sister Nahshon to So in the text, but read Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest. Of her was born Phinehas, the great priest, who prayed and the plague was stayed. Behold, I have shown thee that from Amminadab the priesthood of the children of Israel was transmitted by the sister of Nahshon, and the kingdom of Nahshon her brother. Observe also that the priesthood and the kingdom were transmitted by Judah to the children of Israel. And Nahshon begot Salah, that is to say, Salam, and Salah begot Boaz. Observe now that the kingdom went forth from Boaz and Ruth, the Moabitess, for the old man Boaz took Ruth to wife, so that Lot, the son of Abraham's brother, might have participation in the transmission of the kingdom. And Yahawah did not deprive the righteous man Lot of the reward of his labor, because he had suffered in exile with Abraham, and he received the angels of Yahawah in peace, and that the righteous man Lot might not be reviled because he slept with his daughters. Yahawah granted that the royal succession might be maintained by the seed of both, and that Christ should be born of the seed of Lot and Abraham. And from the seed of Ruth, the Moabitess, Obed was born, and from Obed Jesse, and from Jesse David, and from David Solomon. These are the descendants of Ruth, the Moabitess, the daughter of Lot, and of Naaman, the Amorite, another daughter of Lot, whom Solomon took to wife, was born Rehoboam, who reigned after Solomon. Now Solomon married many wives, 700 freeborn women, and 300 concubines. And of the 1,000 women which he took to wife, he had no son, except from Nabab, the Amorite. And why was it that Yahawah did not give him a son from these others? It was in order to prevent the wicked seed of the Canaanites and Jebusites and Amorites and Hittites and Girgasites and the seed of the peoples whom Yahawah hated from mingling into the succession of the genealogy of Yahawashai. We have a note. Yahawah went down to Solomon and said unto him, From being a wise man thou hast turned thyself into a fool, and from being a rich man thou hast turned thyself into a poor man, and from being a king thou hast turned thyself into a man of no account, through transgressing the commandment of Yahawah. And the beginning of thy evil was the taking of many wives by thee, for through this thou did transgress his law and his decree, and the ordinance of Yahawah which Moses wrote and gave to you, to Israel, that ye should not marry wives from alien peoples, but only from your own kinsfolk and the house of your fathers, that your seed might be pure and holy, and that Yahawah might dwell with you. But thou didst hold lightly to the law of Yahawah, thinking that thou wast wiser than Yahawah, and that thou wouldst get very many male children. But the foolishness of Yahawah is wiser than the wisdom of men, and he hath only given thee 3 sons, the one who carried off thy glory into an alien land, and made the habitation of Yahawah to be in Ethiopia, the one who is lame of foot, who shall sit upon thy throne for the people of Israel, the son of the kin of thy kin from Tabarna, of the house of Judah, and the one who is the son of a Greek woman, a handmaiden, who in the last days shall destroy Rehoboam and all thy king of Israel. And this land shall be his, because he believeth in him that shall come, the Savior. The chiefs of Israel born in Egypt. Now the succession of the children of Israel is this: Levi and Amram and Moses and Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh. These were born in Egypt. Note, Moses was the son of Amram, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi. His mother's name was Jochebed. Moses. And when Moses was born, he was cast into the river, and in Ethiopic, Sephora, the Egyptian woman, the daughter of Pharaoh, took him up, and he lived in the house of Pharaoh for 40 years. And then he killed Pethcom, the Egyptian, the chief of the bakers of Pharaoh. Now this was noised abroad in the house of Pharaoh, after Pharaoh's daughter, Machri, who was called Siphor Mesrin, trumpet of Egypt, was dead, and Moses was afraid, and he fled to Midian to rule the Cushite, the priest of Midian. Notes, Moses was a beautiful child and was called Pantil and Amlaka, and the Egyptians used to call him the Sakwitha of Pharaoh's daughter. Various names are given to the Mary. Alright. And Moses took to wife Zipporah, the Cushite woman, daughter of the priest, and 2 sons were born to him, Gershom and Eleazar. And in the 2nd year of the life of Moses, Joshua, the son of Nun, was born in Egypt. And Moses was 80 years old when Yahawah talked with him from out in the bush, and because of his fear his tongue halted, even as he said to Yahawah, Behold, my Lord, from the day wherein thou didst speak to me, I have been halting of tongue. Moses lived in Egypt 40 years, and in the house of the priest of Midian 40 years. And he passed 40 years in governing the people, and he died at the age of 120 years on Mount Nebo. Notes from the Book of the Bee. From Adam until the death of Moses was 3,868 years.
We're getting the backstory on the rod.
Yep.
It came from a branch, the tree of good and evil.
Moses' rod. Adam cut the rod from a branch of the tree of Yahawah of good and evil, which grew in paradise, and he used it as a staff all his life. It passed from hand to Abraham, who smashed his father's idols with it. It went with him to Egypt, and when it came to Jacob, he used it as a shepherd's crook. Judah received it and gave it to Tamar, and then an angel laid it up in the cave of treasures until Midian was built. An angel showed Jethro the cave, and he took the rod from it, and from him it went on its own free will to Moses. The rod became a serpent, and it swallowed up the rod of Pasti, the sorceress. The rod was taken unto the promised land by Joshua, and Phinehas hid it in the dust of the gate of Jerusalem, where it remained until Christ showed it to Joseph, who took it to Egypt and brought it back to Nazareth. It passed to James, the brother of our Lord, but was stolen by Judas Iscariot, who gave it to the Jews who were crucifying our Lord. To them it became a judgment and a fall. That was from the Book of the Bee. The successors of Moses. And Joshua the son of Nun was the governor of the children of Israel for 27 years. And after the death of Joshua the son of Nun, Cushan, the wicked Cusharish-Hath-Ayam, was lord over the people for 80 years. And Othniel, the son of Kenaz, the brother of Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, was lord over Israel for 40 years. And then the children of Israel were in subjection to the Moabites for 80 years. And Ehud, the son of Gera, ruled the children of Israel for 80 years. And in the 26th year of his life, the 4,000 years came to an end.
I think this is a good time for a song break. Let's do a way back.
All right, let's take a break.
Across the street, the river runs down in the gutter. Life is slipping away. Let me still exist in another place, running under cover of a helicopter blade. The flames are getting higher in effigy, burning down the bridges of my memory. Love may still be alive somewhere, some way, where the down and only dear 100 steel towns away. Oh, the rhythm of my heart is beating like a drum, with the words I love you rolling off my tongue. Oh, never will I roam. Now I know my place is home, where the ocean meets the sky. I'll be sailing. Photographs, kerosene, light up my genres, light it up, light it up. Love may still be alive somewhere, some way, where they're down and only dear 100 steel towns away. Oh, the rhythm of my heart is beating like a drum, with the words I love you rolling off my tongue. Oh, never will I roam. Now I know my place is home, where the ocean meets the sky. I'll be sailing. I'll be sailing. I'll be sailing. Oh, the rhythm of my heart is beating like a drum, with the words I love you rolling off my tongue. Oh, never will I roam. Now I know my place is home, where the ocean meets the sky. I'll be sailing. Oh, the rhythm of my heart is beating like a drum, with the words I love you rolling off my tongue. Oh, never will I roam. Now I know my place is home, where the ocean meets the sky. I'll be sailing.
All right, we are turning the final corner here.
We're on to the final 1,000 years.
Absolutely.
Do you want me to start it?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
See if I got on the right spot. The 5,000 years from the 26th year of Ehud's life to the 2nd year of the reign of Cyrus.
You are good to go.
1 second.
Okay. Jabin, who was dried up in the body, ruled 20 years. Deborah and Barak ruled them 40 years. And the children of Israel were in subjection to the Midianites 7 years. And Yahawah delivered them by the hands of Gideon, who ruled them for 40 years. And Bimelech, his son, reigned after him 3 years. And Tola, the son of Hurrah, ruled them 23 years. And Yaar, the Gileadite, 22 years. And again, the children of Israel were in subjection to the Ammonites 18 years. And Yahawah delivered them by the hand of Jephthah, the man who offered up his daughter as a sacrifice. And he ruled them 6 years. And Ibazan, Bethlehem, who is Nahashon, ruled them 7 years. And Elon, who was from Zebulun, ruled 10 years. And Abaddon, the son of Heliel, the Pirathaonite, ruled them 8 years. And the children of Israel were in subjection to the Philistines 40 years. And Yahawah delivered them by the hands of Samson who ruled over them 20 years. And the children of Israel lived without a governor for 18 years. And then Eli the priest rose up and ruled them for 40 years. And Samuel rose up over them and ruled them 20 years. And in the days of Samuel, the children of Israel provoked wrath unto Yahawah. And he delivered them from the servitude of the Egyptians. And they made Saul, the son of Kish, king, and he reigned over them 40 years. And in the days of Saul lived Goliath, a giant of the Philistines. And he came nigh and reviled Israel and blasphemed against Yahweh. And David, the son of Jesse, slayed him. And David was praised in songs by the daughters of Israel, and Saul persecuted him. And the Philistines slew Saul because he forsook the Lord and took refuge with the devils. We get a big note here. The story of David and Goliath finds an interesting parallel in the history of Sanahat, found in Egyptian papyrus in the Royal Library at Berlin. Interesting. The certain man of Tinu, mighty warrior, went into this great duel. And the man of Tinu glimpsed his shield and his battle axe and then began to hurl spears. But either way, what does it say here? The long foe's weapon and killed him with them. Or he did the same kind of thing as David. David took his sword out and cut off Goliath's head with his own sword. And David ruled over the children of Israel for 40 years. And Solomon, his son, ruled for 40 years. And Solomon did great and wonderful things. And he who sent to Ophir and brought gold from the mountains of gold, and the ships sailed the sea for 36 months, and then came forth and returned. It was he who built Palmyra in the wilderness, and he carried out there great and wonderful works. And when Solomon passed the borders of that mountain, which he called Sa'ir, he found there an altar which Piorazania and Nahazahadahor had built. And these were them whom Nimrod the giant sent Baalam, the priest of the mountain, to Sa'ir, because he had heard that was wont to consult the signs of the zodiac. And when they were passing the skirts of the mountain, they built there an altar to the sun. And when Solomon saw it, he built there a city there and called the name Neapolis, more correctly Heliopolis. That is to say, the city of the sun. And Solomon also built Avard in the midst of the sea, and he became a famous renowned that the report of his wise acts went out into all the ends of the earth. And the queen of Sheba went to hold converse with him. And Solomon loved Hiram, the king of Tyre, greatly. And Hiram ruled in Tyre 500 years. From the days of the kingdom of David to the days of the kingdom of Zedekiah, all of the kings of the children of Israel. And at length he forgot that he was a man, and he blasphemed and said, I am an Elohim, and I sit upon the throne of Yahawah in the middle of the sea. And Nebuchadnezzar killed him there. A note, Solomon reigned over his large kingdom with the greatest wisdom found, but he did not keep his soul, but inclined his heart towards the love of women, forsook Yahawah. That's not what we want to do. The purple linen of Tyre. And in the days of Hiram, the purple-colored apparel worn by kings first appeared. As the dog was running along the seashore at Tyre, he saw a purple-shelled fish coming up out of the water, and he bit it, and straightway his mouth was filled with the blood of that shellfish. And a certain shepherd who saw the dog brought a piece of woolen cloth and wiped the dog's mouth with it. And he made that piece of woolen cloth into a crown and a headcloth and set it upon his head. And he walked along in the sun, and those who saw him thought the rays of fire were coming forth from his head. And Hiram heard of this and sent for men for the man. And when he saw the woolen cloth and marveled and was astonished, all the dyers gathered together and marveled at it. And they set out to inquire into the matter. And they found that some of these shellfish had rejoiced greatly. So I think it was more of a red color than purple, but I think they're saying purple here. The apostasy of Solomon. And Solomon waxed exceedingly great. And the food provided for his table and day consisted of 40 oxen, 100 head of sheep, 30 measures of fine flour, 30 measures of wheat, 300 measures of wine, and besides all the stages and gazelles and antelopes and other creatures of the desert, he became forward and transgressed thy law and hearkened not to the commands of his father. And he took to wife thousands of women from all the peoples Yahawah despised. And in the time of his old age, he gave himself up to women and let them play with him. And he hearkened to their words and did their will. And he denied Yahawah, the Elohim of David, his father. And he builded altars unto devils and offered up sacrifices unto idols and graven images. And he worshipped the work of his hands. And Yahawah turned away his face from him, and he died. And he reigned in Jerusalem for 46 years. It's really sad that Solomon didn't ask for the correct heart. Solomon was seduced into idolatry by his wife, the daughter of Pharaoh. One day she beautified and scented herself before him. So, there are different reasons as to what took place and why it happened. Let's not be so quick to judge them right away. Let's continue on here. Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, reigned after him. And Rehoboam was 41 years old when he began to reign. And he polluted Jerusalem with fornication and the altars of devils and the stink of heathendom. And the kingdom of Israel was rent in twain. And in the 5th year of his kingdom, Shishak, the king of Egypt, went up against Jerusalem. And he carried off all the treasure of the service of the house of the Lord, and all of the treasure of the kingdom of David, and that of Solomon, and the vessels of gold and the vessels of silver. And he magnified himself and said, I am not taking away treasure which is yours, but the wealth which your fathers took out of Egypt. And Rehoboam died in the heathen practices of his father Solomon. So this is interesting. We got some hieroglyphic pictures to go along with it. And Asa, his son, and Abijah, his son, reigned after him and destroyed Jerusalem with fornication and the heathen works. Now Melchizedek, the mother of Adon-Shalom, was his mother, and he died in the heathen practices also of his father. And Asa, the son, reigned after him 40 years in Jerusalem. And he did that which was good before the Lord. And he put away fornication from Jerusalem. One second. Needed a drink here. And he put away and made an end of the heathen practices of his people. And he kept the commandments of our Elohim. And he drove them, the idolaters, out of his place or kingdom and made them to be a mockery for all the people. Interesting language that Asa did this, and it was seen as good. Mockery of the idolatrous, wicked people, huh? Interesting, because they taught the offering of sacrifices to idols. Zerah of Judah went up against him, and Yahawah humbled him before Asa, and Asa died in righteousness like his forefather David. I'm going to note here, Asaph took his mother Anna, who was an adulteress, and cast her down. She died. It's not the Black King. And Jehoshaphat, his son, reigned after him, and he walked in the ways of Asa, his father. And he did that which was pleasing before Yahawah. And Yahawah was that which was pleasing before Yahawah. And Yahawah was angry with him because he was a friend of the house of Ahab. And for this reason, Yahawah did not permit him to bring out gold from Ophir. Now, he made ships to send thither, and they were broken at Ezon, or Gibber, and he was 32 years old when he began to reign. And the name of his mother was Azubah, the daughter of Shelah. And Jehoshaphat died in his righteousness. And Joram reigned after him, and he was 32 years old when he began to reign. And he reigned 8 years in Jerusalem, and did not do what was pleasing before Yahawah, for he sacrificed at the altar of devils, and he died in the heathen practices. Do you want to take over there, Jason, at page 178?
Sure. Ahaziah, his son, reigned after him, and he was 22 years old when he began to reign. He lived for 1 year in Jerusalem and did evil things before Yahawah in that year. Because of the wickedness and iniquity which he wrought, Yahawah delivered him into the hands of his enemies, and they killed him. When he was dead, his mother Athaliah killed all the royal children in the house of David, imagining that she would uproot the children of the Hebrews. The only person in the seed of the royal house whom she did not slay was Joash, whom Jehosheba, the daughter of Joram, the son of Jehoshaphat, carried away secretly and hid with her in her house. The reign of Ahab's sister. And the sister of Ahab reigned 7 years in Jerusalem, and she polluted the city with fornication. For she commanded the women to play the whore without fear, and the men to commit adultery with the wives of their neighbors without incurring any penalty. And she herself committed fornication like Jezebel, and she adopted all the heathen practices of the house of Ahab in Israel. The reign of Joash. And after 7 years the children of Jerusalem considered whom they should make their king. And Jehoiada the priest gathered them together in the house of the Lord, in the temple which Solomon had built. And when the captains of thousands and the captains of hundreds had gathered together, Jehoiada the priest said unto them, Whom say ye shall be king and sit upon the throne of David, except he be a king and the son of a king? And when he showed him to them, they rejoiced with an exceedingly great joy. And the captains of the thousands and the captains of hundreds and the runners and the messengers brought the kingdom to the house of the Lord, and the soldiers who were armed surrounded him on all sides. And Jehoiada the priest set him, Joash, upon the throne of David his father. And Joash was 7 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. And the name of his mother was Zibiah, and she was from Beersheba. And Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, was killed. And Joash requited with evil the kindness which Jehoiada had done him. And after his death he shed the innocent blood of his sons. And Joash died, and Amaziah the son reigned after him. Amaziah was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem, and the name of his mother was Jodam. And Amaziah died, and Uzziah his son reigned after him. Uzziah was 16 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 50 years in Jerusalem, and the name of his mother was Jechaliah. And he did that which was good before the Lord. Now he made bold to go into the holy land of Holy of Holies. And he took the censer from the priest of Yahawah, Azariah, and burned incense in the temple of the Lord. And because he did this, leprosy covered his face. And because Isaiah the prophet did not rebuke him, he was prevented from prophesying until Isaiah died. And Jotham his son reigned in his stead. Jotham was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, and the name of his mother was Jerusa, the daughter of Zadok. And he did that which was good before the Lord, and he died, and Ahaz his son reigned after him. Ahaz, a vassal of the king of Assyria. Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, and the name of his mother was Aphan, the daughter of Levi. And he did that which was evil before the Lord, and he sacrificed to devils. Tiglath-Pileser, the king of Assyria, went up against him, and Ahaz wrote himself down in his letter as his servant, and the Assyrian held him in subjection. And Ahaz sent to the king of Assyria the gold and silver which were in the house of the Lord. And in his days the children of Israel were carried off into captivity. And the king sent for the men who had come from Babel, so that they might dwell in the land instead of the children of Israel, because they could kill the lions. And the king of Assyria sent to them the priest, and he taught them the laws. And Ahaz died, and Hezekiah his son reigned after him. Got some notes here. Hezekiah. Hezekiah was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem, and the name of his mother was Abhi, the daughter of Zechariah. And he did that which was pleasing before the Lord, for he smashed the altars, and he cut in pieces the serpent of brass which Moses made in the wilderness, because the children of Israel used to worship it, and he abolished heathen practices in Jerusalem. In the 4th year of his reign, Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, came up and carried away captive the rest of the children of Israel, and he sent them into Media beyond Babel. I have a note here. And in the 20th year of Hezekiah, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came up and took all the cities and towns of Judah, But through the prayer of Hezekiah, Jerusalem was saved. I've got another note. He captured 46 of Hezekiah's strongholds and brought out from them 150 people and horses, mules, asses, camels, oxen, and innumerable sheep. He then shut up Hezekiah like a caged bird, and Hezekiah's soldiers deserted, and he sent his envoy to Nineveh to pay his tribute to Sennacherib, 30 talents of gold, 800 talents of silver, precious stones, eye paint, couches and chairs of ivory, hides, tusks, precious woods, and his daughters with their attendants and musicians. And Hezekiah became sick unto death, and it was grievous unto him, and he wept. And there were certain men who blamed him, but why his sickness was grievous unto him, they never troubled to acquaint themselves. Now the sorrow of Hezekiah came upon him, because when he became sick unto death, he had no son to reign after him. And when he looked with the eyes of his soul and saw that he had no son to reign after him, he was afflicted and wept and said, Woe is me, for I must die childless, and that blessing which hath been given unto us for 46 generations hath been cut off by me this day. I have become the destroyer of the kingdom of David, and the succession of the kings of Judah hath been cut off this day. This was the cause of the sorrow of Hezekiah. And after he recovered from his sickness, he waited 14 years, and then Manasseh was born to him. And Hezekiah died in great content, and left a son to sit upon the throne of David, his father. You want to take over at Manasseh?
Sure, let me get that queued up. I think I went to the next book. Might not get to the next book. What did you say it was? Hezekiah?
Manasseh?
Manasseh. Thanks. How far up was that? Manasseh, not too far up. Okay, let me get the screen share here. Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign. Oh, one thing I wanted to point out. It was interesting how the serpent, the bronze serpent that was held up that they all looked upon to be healed, it became a satanic idol that was destroyed, and that was a good thing. Found that interesting.
Yeah.
Sort of the way Christ has been used for once saved, always saved blasphemy. In like manner, it's become an idol, the cross, right? Just an interesting. So Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 55 years in Jerusalem. And the name of his mother was Hephzibah. He was a man who was more evil and inquidious than all those who had lived before him. He built altars to devils and sacrificed to idols, and he filled Jerusalem with iniquity and provoked Yahawashai to wrath. And because Isaiah the prophet rebuked him, he threatened him and sent men who were sons of iniquity, and they sawed Isaiah the prophet in half with the saw between two pieces of wood, from his head downwards to his feet. And Isaiah was 120 years old when they sawed him in twain. And he had been the prophet of Yahawashai for 90 years. And Manasseh repented after he had slain Isaiah, and he put sackcloth on his body, and he decreed fasting for himself, and he ate bread with tears all the days of his life, because he had committed iniquity and had slain the prophet. And Manasseh died, and Ammon reigned after him. And Ammon was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in 2 years in Jerusalem, and in the same name of his mother, Meshullemeth. And Ammon did evil before Yahweh, and he made his sons to pass through fire, and he died, and Josiah, his son, reigned after him. And Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 31 years in Jerusalem. And the name of his mother was Jedidiah, and the daughter of Adijah from Bezkath. And he did what was good before the Lord, and he walked in all the ways wherein his father David had walked. And he turned aside neither to the right nor to the left, and Pharaoh the lame killed him. And Jehoaz, his son, reigned after him. We get a note, king of the south and the north, and son of Ra. Interesting language if you watched any of the TV shows that they made, Game of Thrones. This is all about the successions and the documented kings over time here. And Jehoaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. And the name of his mother was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah from Lebahanah. And he did what was evil before the Lord, even as Manasseh had done. And Pharaoh, the lame king of Egypt, took him as prisoner in Dilbalath, in the land of Hamath. Whilst he was king in Jerusalem, he laid tribute on the land, and hundreds of talents of silver and 10 talents of gold. And Pharaoh the lame made Elikam, the son of Jonah, king instead of Josiah his father, and he made his name to be Jehoiakim. And he carried away Joahaz, and he went to Egypt and died there. And Jehoiakim gave silver and gold to Pharaoh, and he laid the payment of silver and gold on the land according to the word of Pharaoh's mouth. Every man according to what it was right for him to pay, brought silver and gold from the people of the land according to the command of Pharaoh the lame. And Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned for 11 years in Jerusalem. And in the name of his mother, Zebudiah, the daughter of Pedaiah from Ramah, he died. And he did that which was evil also before the Lord, and even as his fathers had done, in the days of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babel, went up against Jerusalem. And Jehoiakim became his vessel for 3 years, and then he turned and rebelled against him. And the Lord stirred up bands of robbers against him because of his sins. And Joachim slept with his fathers, and Joachim his son reigned after him. And the king of Egypt did not come forth again out of his country, for the king of Babel captured all of the land that belonged to the king of Egypt, from the river of Egypt to the river Euphrates. And Joachim was 18 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. And the name of his mother was Nahashta, the daughter of Elithan from Jerusalem. And he did that which was evil before the Lord, even as his father had done. And at that time Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babel, went up against Jerusalem. And the king of Babel took him with him in the 8th year of his kingdom. And he brought out from there all the treasure of the house of the Lord, and the treasure of the king's house. And he carried off into captivity to Babel the people of Jerusalem. And Jehoiachin and his mother and his wives and his nobles and the king brought captives to Babel all the men who had made war. And the king of Babel made Methaniah, the uncle of Jehoiachin, king in his stead, and called his name Zedekiah, the capture of Jerusalem. Zedekiah was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And the name of his mother was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah from Libnah. And he did that which was evil before the Lord, even as did Jehoiakim. And the wrath of the Lord was and had fallen upon Jerusalem. And Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babel. And in the 9th year of his kingdom, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babel, came against Jerusalem. And the city was fettered with affliction and besieged until the 11th year of the king of Zedekiah. And the city was rent open, and its walls were breached, and all of the mighty men of war fled from the city by night and by way of the plain. And the soldiers of the Chaldeans pursued the king, and they overtook him in the plains of Jericho, and all of the soldiers were driven away from him. And the Chaldeans captured Zedekiah and took him up to the king of Babel at Rabbalah. And he passed judgment upon him, and the king of Babel slew the sons of Zedekiah and the king before his eyes. And he blinded the eyes of Zedekiah and bound him in chains and carried him off to Babel. And Simeon the high priest, because he had freedom of speech with the commander there of the Chaldean army, made entry to him. And the commander of the army gave him all of the books of the scriptures, and he did not burn them. And Simeon the high priest gathered them together and cast them into a pit, or a dry well. And Jerusalem was laid waste and made desolate, and no man remained therein except Jeremiah the prophet, who sat and raised lamentations over it for 20 years. And Jeremiah the prophet died in Samaria, and the priest of buried him in Jerusalem, according to the oath which the prophet had made him to swear. Now, up to the time of the destruction of Jerusalem, the Hebrew, Greek, and Syrian writers were in possession of the truth, and they were able to produce the registers of the genealogies of the tribes and the people. But from the destruction of Jerusalem and the onwards, there has been no truth in their writings, except as regards the heads of the tribes and the patriarchs. And they are unable to prove whence succession of the priests took its origins. That's why you have people saying they're Kohanim, they're apparently they're Levitical, and we'll continue here. And Jehoiachin was bound in prison for 37 years, and after him came forth from prison, he took wife Gulith, the daughter of Elikim, and he begat by her in Babel Salathiel. And Jehoiachin died in Babel. And Salathiel took to wife Hethbath, the daughter of Halkanah, and he begat by her Zerubbabel, who took to wife Malkath, the daughter of Ezra the scribe. But no son was born to him by her in Babel. And in the days of Zerubbabel, the prince of Judah, Cyrus the Persian reigned in Babel. A reproduction of scripture itself, relief of Cyrus is given. So Cyrus was the common, he freed them. This was the common day. Trump is being referenced as the modern day Cyrus on the temple coin. And Cyrus took to wife daughter of Salathiel, the sister of Zerubbabel, and he took her to wife according to the law of the Persians, and made her his queen. And she entreated Cyrus to bring about the return of the children of Israel to Jerusalem. And inasmuch as Zerubbabel was her brother, she was very insistent about it, the return to Jerusalem of those who had been led away into captivity. Now Cyrus loved his wife as he loved himself, and he did for her what she wished. And he set forth heralds into the land of Babel, ordering all the children of Israel to be gathered together. And when they were gathered together, Cyrus said unto Zerubbabel, his wife's brother, Rise up, and take with thee all thy children of thy people, and go up to Jerusalem in peace, and rebuild the city of thy fathers, and dwell and reign therein. And because Cyrus brought about the return of the children of Israel to Jerusalem, Yahawah said, I have taken my servant Cyrus by his right hand. And the name of Cyrus was called My Shepherd, the Anointed Lord, because his seed was received into the seed of David through Meshaiah, the sister of Zerubbabel, whom had taken to wife. And the children of Israel went up to Babel, and Zerubbabel became king over them, and Joshua, the son of Yazadek, the son of Aaron, was high priest, even as the angels showed Zechariah the prophet, and said unto him, These are the sons of the oil of consecration. And the people of captivity went up in the 2nd year of Cyrus, and in the 50,000th year came to an end. The 500 years from the 2nd year of Cyrus to, yes, we have the birth of Christ.
Do you want me to take over?
Sure.
This is the final stretch right here. Now when the people had gone up to Jerusalem, they had no books of the prophets. And Ezra the scribe went down into that pit wherein Simeon had cast the books, and he found a censer full of fire, and the perfume of the incense which rose up from it. And thrice he took some of the dust of those books, and cast it into his mouth, and straightway Yahweh made to abide in him the spirit of prophecy, and he renewed all the books of the prophets. Note here, the manuscripts, we'll just keep going. And that same fire which was found in the pit became the holy fire in the house of the Lord. And Zerubbabel reigned in Jerusalem, and Joshua, the son of Yodzak, was high priest, and Ezra was the scribe of the law and the prophets. And the children of Israel celebrated a Passover when they went up from Babel. These are 3 Passovers which the children of Israel kept. The first was kept in Egypt in the days of Moses. The second was kept in the reign of Josiah. The third was kept when they went up from the land of Babel. And now an end hath been made to the Passover for them forever. From the first captivity of Jerusalem, that in which Daniel went down into captivity, to the reign of Cyrus the Persian, was 70 years according to the prophecy of Jeremiah. And the children of Israel began the rebuilding of the temple in the days of Zerubbabel and Joshua and the son of Yazdok and Ezra the scribe, and the building thereof was finished in 46 years, even as it is written in the Holy Gospel. Genealogies of the later Israelites.
One sec. I just wanted you to point out, just real quick, that that was the typology of the 2 witnesses.
Yeah, Zerubbabel and Joshua.
That's right. And also, when we say the name Joshua, that's actually YHWSHI, Yahawashai, right, is the actual name.
Now, the genealogy of the tribes or families was lost by the scribes, and they were unable to show either whence the heads of families took their wives or whence they came. I, however, possess the knowledge of the correct genealogy and will show the truth to every man. When the children of Israel went up from Babylon, Zerubbabel begot. So we're going to have this list of characters of persons.
These are the successions of the genealogies of Christ. Yeah, we can skip. There's a couple parts like that we're not going to be.
And because none of the early writers could discover the order of succession of the genealogy generations of their fathers, the Hebrews urged the sons of the church very strongly to show them who were the fathers of the blessed Mary in the order of the succession of their families. And they pressed the children of the church to inquire into the genealogy of the families of their fathers and to show them the truth. For the Hebrews call Mary an adulteress, and here the mouth of the Hebrews is stopped, and they believe that Mary was of the seed of the house of David and of Abraham. Now, the Jews have no table of succession, which showeth them to be true order of the families of their fathers, because their books have been burned thrice, once in the days of Antiochus, who raised up a persecution against them, and polluted the temple of the Lord, and forced them to offer up sacrifices unto idols, the second time in the days of and the third time in the days of Herod, when Jerusalem was destroyed. Because of this, the Jews were greatly grieved, for they had no trustworthy table of the succession of the generations of their fathers, and they toiled eagerly that they might obtain the truth, but they were unable to do so. Now, the Jews had many writers, and each of them wrote about what he pleased, and no two of them agreed in what they wrote, because they could not stand on a foundation of truth. And even our own writers, the children of the church, cannot show us the certainty of the real truth. They cannot show how the ascent of the body of Adam to Golgotha took place, nor whence came the fathers or ancestors of Melchizedek, and the fathers of the blessed woman Mary. And the children of Israel, being urged by the church, and being unable to ascertain the truth, waxed reckless, and wrote, as it were, in the madness of error. Here the text is faulty and incomplete. And as concerning the table of succession of the 63 families which reach from Adam to Christ, the Greek writers and the Hebrew writers and the Syrian writers can neither show whence each head of a family took his wife, nor whose daughter she was. Now each divine doctor or teacher has laid down for the church one true doctrine, and they have given unto believers the armor wherewith they can fight and overcome her enemies. Besides this, the grace of Christ hath granted unto us that which was lacking in them, and this we will cast into the rich treasury of their knowledge. And this with great diligence we have bestirred ourselves to do, even as our truly loving brother in Christ, the illustrious Nemesius, greatly desireth. And although I have been hindered through my dilatoriness, thou hast through thy love of learning not been dilatory. And because of thy loving kindness towards me, and also because I myself am eager not to withhold from thee that which thou request of me, I will here write down the true table of succession. Here, O my brother Nemesius, the following table of succession which I write for thee, none of the other doctors hath been able to light upon it. The following are 63 generations from which the incarnation of Christ is descended, and their order is thus. So here we have the genealogies from Adam, and these are all the names that we've been reading.
Yes, it's all
Throughout
characters
Throughout the book, yes.
So you probably recognize all these names, right? Jonachar took to wife Dinah, that is to say Hannah, the daughter of Pedah, and 60 years after he had taken her to wife, she brought forth Mary, of whom was born Christ.
So that's Anna, or Hannah in the Hebrew, but that was Anna, Mary's mom. We're getting this is some backstory into the genealogies of Mother Mary, Christ's mom.
Yeah. And because Joseph was the son of Mary's uncle, by the foreknowledge of Yahawah, who knew that Mary would be certainly attacked by the Jews, Mary was given to Joseph, who was the son of her uncle, that he might take care of her. Observe, O our brother Nemesius, that the fathers of the blessed woman Mary belong to the succession of the generations of David. So we've got a note here with many, many names that we're going to pass over. It says, Behold, I have set thee upon a foundation of truth, which none of the former chroniclers found to stand upon. See, too, how these 63 generations, reaching from Adam to the birth of Christ, succeeded each other. And the Hebrews also rejoiced, because they also had found the generations of the families of their fathers. Observe, O our brother Nemesius, that in the days of Cyrus and 5,000 years came to an end, and from the 1,000 years of Cyrus until the passion of our Redeemer, the years were in number 500, according to the prophecy of Daniel, who prophesied and said, After 62 weeks the Messiah shall be slain, and these weeks make 500 years. There's a note from the book of Adam. Behold, from this time the mouth of the Jews is shut, for they have dared to say that the Messiah hath not yet come. They must perforce do one of two things, either accept the prophecy of Daniel, or say, We do not accept it. For the prophecy hath fulfilled itself, and the weeks have passed, and the Messiah hath been slain, and the holy city hath been laid waste by Vespasian. Birth of Christ. Observe now, O thou lover of learning, our brother Nemesius, in the 42nd year of the kingdom of Augustus, Christ was born in Bethlehem of Judah, as it is written in the Holy Gospel. A star and the Magi. Now it was 2 years before Christ was born that the star appeared to the Magi. They saw the star of the firmament of heaven, and the brilliancy of its appearance was brighter than that of every other star. And within it was a maiden carrying a child, and a crown was set upon his head. Now it was the custom of the ancient kings and the Magi of the Chaldeans to consult the signs of the zodiac about all the affairs of their lives. And when the Magi saw the star, that they were perturbed and terrified and afraid, and the whole land of Persia was disturbed. And the kings and the Magi and the Chaldeans and the wise men of Persia were stupefied, and they were exceedingly afraid of the portent which they saw. And they said, Peradventure the king of the Greeks hath determined to wage war against the land of Nimrod. And the Magi and the Chaldeans were terrified, and they consulted their books of wisdom. And through the might of the wisdom of their books they understood and learned, and stood upon the strength of the truth. Now in truth, the Magi of the Chaldeans discovered that by means of the motions of the stars, to which they gave the name of signs of the zodiac, they were able to know and understand the strength or importance of events before they took place. And this same knowledge is also given to those who go down into the sea, and by the motions of the stars they know beforehand when there's going to be a disturbance of the winds, and when a violent storm is going to rise up against them, and whenever they are about to be threatened with danger from winds and waves. Thus also was it with the Magi. When they saw and read in Revelation of Nimrod, they discovered therein that a king was born in Judah, and the whole path of the dispensation of Christ was revealed unto them. We have a note here. From the book of the Bee. We have the signs of the zodiac. Not much to read right here.
Yeah, keep moving through it.
So here's the constellations.
Yeah, we've looked at them too.
Mm-hmm.
We've covered this a little bit, but yeah, keep going.
I guess I'll continue here. And straightway, according to what they had received from the tradition which had been handed down to them by their fathers, they left the east and went up to the mountains of Nod, where lie inside the entrances of the east from the lands on the skirts of the north, and they took from them gold and myrrh and frankincense. And from this passage understand, O my brother Nemesius, that the Magi knew the whole service of the dispensation of our Redeemer through the offerings which they brought. The gold was for a king, the myrrh for a physician, and the frankincense for a priest. For the Magi knew who he was, and that he was a king, and a physician, and a priest. Now when the son of the king of Sheba was a little boy, his father brought him to a rabbi, and he learned the book of the Hebrews better than all his companions and his fellow countrymen. And he said unto his slaves, It is written in all the books of genealogies that the king shall be born in Bethlehem. Do you want to take over here?
The names of the Magi? I had scrolled past that. Let me get back into the spot. Name of the Magi. Yeah, we get into a little bit of... Here we go.
Skip through some of the...
Yeah, as we've got the different names of the Magi in the book of Adam. The kings are called Hor, king of Persia. We get the names of the Magi who are number 12. So we're getting like the 12 tribes, the Magi in Jerusalem. And the Magi, having made ready to go up, the kingdom of the mighty men of war was perturbed and terrified. And there was with the Magi so mighty a following that all the cities of the east were in dismay before them, and Jerusalem also. And when they entered the presence of Herod, he trembled before them, and he commanded them, saying, Depart in peace, and seek diligently for the young child. And when ye have found him, come and show me, that I too may go and make obedience unto him. Through deceit was hidden in Herod's heart. He offered homage with his mouth. Now when the Magi went up into Jerusalem, there was a great commotion in Judea because of the edict of Augustus Caesar, which commanded that every man should be registered in his country, and that in the city of his fathers, because of this, Herod was greatly perturbed. And he said unto the Magi, Go ye and search for him. Now the Magi are called Magi because of the garb of Maginism, in which the heathen kings arrayed themselves, whosoever they offered up a sacrifice and made offerings to their gods. They made use of two different kinds of apparel, that which appertained to royalty they wore inside, and that which appertained to Magianism outside. And thus also was it with those who went up and prepared to make offerings to Christ, and they were arrayed in both kinds of apparel. And when the Magi had gone forth from Jerusalem and from the presence of Herod, that same star which had been their guide on the road appeared unto them, and they rejoiced greatly. And the star went before them until they entered the cave, where they saw the young child swathed in bands and laid in a manger. Whilst they were on their way up thither, they said to themselves, When we arrive there, we should see a mighty and wonderful things, according to the law and the customs which prevail among royal personages when a king is born. Thus did they think they would find in the land of Israel a royal palace, and couches of gold with cushions laid upon them, and the king of the son of the king arrayed in purple, and awestruck soldiers and companies and royal troops, and the nobles of the kingdom paying him honor and presenting him gifts, and tables laid out with meats fit for a king, and vessels of drink standing in rows, and men servants and women servants serving in fear. Such were the things which the Magi expected to see. But they were them not. They saw sights which were far better than these. When they went into the cave, they saw Joseph sitting in astonishment, and Mary in a state of wonderment. But there was no couch with cushions laid upon it, and no table with food laid upon it, and no sign of preparations which accompany a royal state. And although they saw all this humble estate and poverty, they had no doubt in their minds, but they had drawn nigh in fear and made obedience to him in honor. And they offered unto him the gold, myrrh, and frankincense. And it was very grievous unto Mary that Joseph that they had nothing to set before them. And the Magi fed themselves with the food of their own providing. So Mary was like, oh, my heart, we're on a journey back to Jerusalem. We don't have any food. We can't get in anywhere. In addition to the gold, frankincense, and myrrh, goes on to state that they had also offered up the 30 pieces of silver. Interestingly enough, it says here that the 30 pieces of silver came from Terah, down to Abraham, to Isaac, down to David, down to Solomon. And they were the pieces that Judas actually sold Christ out to and then got back and then threw them onto the floor, and then he went and hung himself. Now Christ was 8 days old when the Magi presented their offerings, and Mary received unto them that very time which Joseph circumcised Christ. And then we go on to the conversion of the Magi. And the Magi lived with the child 3 days, and they saw the hosts of heaven going up and coming down to Christ. And they heard the sound of the praises of angels who sang hymns and cried out, Holy, 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 the mighty Elohim, with whose praises the heavens and the earth are filled with. And they were in great fear, and in truth they believed in Christ and said, This is the King who hath come down from heaven and become man. And Parazahada answered unto him and said, Now know, I have the prophecy of Isaiah is true. For when I was in the school of the Hebrews, I read in the book of Isaiah, I found written therein thus, For unto us a child is born, and unto us a son hath been given, and his name shall be called Wonderful, and the Counselor, and Elohim, and the Giant of the worlds. And it is written in another place, Behold, a virgin is with child, and she shall bring forth a son, and his name shall be called Emmanuel, which is, being interpreted, Yahawah or Elohim with us. And because he hath became like a man, and the angels were coming down from heaven to him, truly he is the Lord of angels and men. And he and the Magi believed and said, Truly this king is an Elohim. Kings are born unto us frequently, and mighty men, and the sons of mighty men are born unto us on earth. But it is an unheard of thing for the angels to come down to them. And straightway they all rose up and did homage unto him, as the Lord King of the world. And having prepared food for their journey, they went down to their own country by a desert road. Massacre of the innocents. Now, there are certain men who dispute the statement and will say where was Christ when the children were massacred? For it was written that he was not found in the land of Judea, because it was because the massacre that he fled to Egypt, so that there might be fulfilled that is which is written. From Egypt I have called my son. And also, and know this also, when Christ entered Egypt, all of the idols therein were swept from their places and fell down and were broken, so that there might be fulfilled which is written, Behold, the Lord rideth on a swift cloud and entereth into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be broken before him. Then we get a note when Joseph and Mary and the child reached the gate of the city of Heliopolis, they were both too butterous of the gate, and figures of brass they had been made by the sages. They spoke like men. These crazy objects start talking. And he did not return into Egypt at once, and lived there until Herod had died. After him reigned Archelaus. Now thou must know, O my brother Nemesius, that even as I had already told thee, all the men who were under the rule of Herod were included in that registration for taxation. And the registration was completed in 50 days. And it was not until the registration was completed and sealed, and until Herod had sealed it and sent it to Augustus in Rome, that the Messiah was searched for. And up to that time, no children had been slain. And it was during the commotion caused by the registration that Christ was born, when 40 days after his birth had been fulfilled, Christ went into the temple of Yahawah. And Simeon the aged, the son of Joshua bar Yosedekah, in whose days the captivity went up from Babel, took him into his arms. And now Simeon was 500 years old when he took Christ in his arms. That's interesting. There was the prophecy that he wouldn't die until he held the Messiah in his arms. Flight into Egypt, and straightway the angel said unto Joseph, Arise, and take this young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt. And when the registration was completed, the Jews were dismissed, so that each man might depart into his own district, to his own village. We got Herod and John the Baptist. Then did Herod inquire from the Magi. And when he was told, They have gone back to their own country, he was exceedingly wroth. And he sent straightway and slew all of the young children in Bethlehem, and in all the villages round about. And when Herod had passed among the slain children, this is just crazy, and they did not find there the body of John, the son of Zacharias, he said, Truly his son will reign over Israel. For he had heard of what had been said to Zacharias by the angel, when he announced him concerning the birth of John. And Herod sent to Zacharias and commanded him to bring John and Zacharias And Zacharias said, I am a priest, and I minister in the temple of the Lord. I do not know where the child and his mother are. And because of these words, Zacharias was slain between the bench or the steps and the altar. And now Elizabeth had taken John and gone forth from the desert. And this is when Yahawah ended his partnership with the Hebrew church. Zacharias was the high priest, and when this happened to him, that was the end of that. And it says here, the death of Herod. And as for Herod, divine punishment that was pitiless overtook him, and he fell ill of a sickness through which he stank, and his body melted into massive worms. And he suffered the most grievous pains, and the length of people were unable to come near him because of his smell. And through the bitter suffering, his soul departed into outer darkness. Nevertheless, his death be destroyed by many. Note, first of all, he slew his own wife and daughter. I'm not going to continue. There is now Herod said unto Archelaus his son and Shalom his sister, immediately I am dead. Let those who I have fettered in prison be slain. Now he had imprisoned one person from every house, and he said, I know that the Jews will feel great joy at my death. But in order that they may not rejoice and be glad whilst ye are sorrowful and are weeping, let all those whom I have shut up in prison be slain, so that their death may they cause lamentation unintentionally. And Archelaus and Shalom did as Herod commanded them. And when this order had been carried out in all of Judea, there remained not one house which there was not lamentation, even as it is in the land of Egypt. Crazy, right? Christ returns to Galilee. And when Herod died and his death had been announced to Joseph, he went back to Galilee. And when Christ was 30 years old, he was baptized by John. Now John was in the desert all the days of his life, and he lived upon the root which is called kamos, which is wild honey. According to some, this root was like unto a carrot. And in the 12th year of the kingdom of Tiberius, Christ suffered. Now we've got into the crucifixion of Christ. This is interesting. Do you want to read it, or do you want me to keep going?
It's up to you, brother. You want me to take over?
Yeah, I guess you probably could. We're almost to the end of it.
Yeah, we're getting there. The crucifixion of Christ. And know that also that Christ dwelt in Mary and suffered in Nazareth, was born in Bethlehem, and was laid in a manger, and was carried by Simeon in the temple of Solomon, and was reared in Galilee, and was anointed by Mary Magdalene, and ate the Passover in the house of Nicodemus, the brother of Joseph of Arimathea, and was bound in the house of Hanan, and was struck with a reed in the house of Caiaphas, and embraced the pillar, and was scourged with a whip in the praetorium of Pilate. And on Friday, no, it probably wasn't a Friday, on the first day of Nisan, April, on the 14th day of the moon, our Redeemer suffered.
There's a lot of these Fridays, and just remember, all it is the day before the Sabbath. It was always a different day each month, so it was never on Friday every month. That's how this is ridiculous. But this was the switches that we explained that they put in to promote paganism.
At the first hour of the day before the Sabbath, Yahawah fashioned Adam from the dust, and at the first hour of the day before the Sabbath, Christ received spittle from the sons of Adam. At the second hour of the day before the Sabbath, the wild beasts and the cattle and the fettered fowl gathered themselves together to Adam, and he gave names to them as they bowed their heads before him. And at the second hour of the day before Sabbath, the Jews gathered themselves together against Christ, and they gnashed their teeth at him, even as the blessed David said, Many bulls have gathered together round about me, bulls of Bashan have beset me round.
Just interesting that language was of David, calling himself the Christ character. He foresaw the circling around of him.
In the third hour of the day before Sabbath, a crown of glory was placed on the head of Adam. And at the third hour of the day before the Sabbath, the crown of thorns was placed on the head of Christ. All these parallels. 3 hours was Adam in paradise and shining with splendor, and 3 hours was Christ in the judgment hall, being beaten by creatures that had been fashioned out of dust. At the 6th hour Eve went up to the tree to the transgression of the commandment, At the 6th hour Christ ascended to the cross, the tree of life. At the 6th hour Eve gave unto Adam the fruit of the gall of death, and at the 6th hour the crowd of iniquity gave unto Christ vinegar and gall. For 3 hours Adam remained under the tree naked, and for 3 hours was Christ naked on the wood of the cross. And from the right side of Adam went forth Eve, the mother of mortal offspring, and from the right side of Christ went forth baptism, the mother of immortal offspring. On the day before the Sabbath Adam and Eve sinned, and on the day before Sabbath their sin was remitted. On the day before Sabbath Adam and Eve died, and on the day before Sabbath they came alive. On the day before Sabbath death reigned over them, and on the day before Sabbath they were freed from his dominion. On the day before Sabbath Adam and Eve went forth from paradise, and on the day before Sabbath our Lord went into the grave. On the day before Sabbath Adam and Eve became naked, and on the day before Sabbath Christ stripped himself naked and clothed them. On the day before Sabbath Satan stripped Adam and Eve naked, and on the day before Sabbath Christ stripped naked Satan and all his hosts and put them to shame openly. On the day before Sabbath the door of paradise was shut, and Adam went forth, and on the day before Sabbath it was opened, and a robber went in. On the day before Sabbath the two-edged sword was given to the cherub, and on the day before Sabbath Christ smote with the spear and brake the two-edged sword. On the day before Sabbath kingdom and priesthood and prophecy were given unto Adam, and on the day before Sabbath priesthood and kingdom and prophecy were taken from the Jews. At the 9th hour Adam went down into the lowest depths of the earth from the height of paradise, and at the 9th hour Christ went down to the lowest depths of the earth to those who lay in the dust from the height of the cross. Know also that Christ was like unto Adam in everything, even as it is written, in that very place where Melchizedek ministered as a priest, and where Abraham offered up his son Isaac as an offering, the wood of the cross was set up, and that self-same place is the center of the earth. And there the 4 quarters of the earth meet each other. For when Yahawah made the earth, his mighty power was running before it, and the earth was running after it. And the power of Yahawah stood still and became motionless in Golgotha, and that same place formeth the boundary of the earth. When Shem stood up the body of Adam, that same place, which is the door of the earth, opened itself, and when Shem and Melchizedek had deposited the body of Adam in the center of the earth, the 4 quarters of the earth closed in about it, and embraced Adam, and straightway that opening was closed firmly, and all the children of Adam were not able to open it. And when the cross of Christ, the Redeemer of Adam and his sons, was set up upon it, the door of that place was opened in the face of Adam. And when the wood was fixed upon it, and Christ was smitten with the spear, and blood and water flowed down from his side, they ran down into the mouth of Adam, and they became a baptism to him, and he was baptized. Now when the Jews crucified Christ on the wood, they divided his garments among them beneath the cross. Even as it is written, his tunic was of purple, which is the raiment of royalty. And when they stripped him of the raiment of royalty, Pilate would not permit the Jews to array him in ordinary apparel, but only in the actual raiment of royalty, either purple or scarlet. By both of these it might be known that he was a king, for it is impossible for any other man to wear purple. Only a king can do this. And one of the evangelists had said, the soldiers put him a purple robe. And this is a true word, and is highly credible. And another evangelist uses the word scarlet, and he proclaimed that it was true. The scarlet garment indicateth to us blood, and the purple garment water. For the scarlet one was like unto blood, and the purple one was like unto water. The scarlet garment proclaimeth the joyful and immortal nature of man, the purple one the sad and mortal nature of man. Understand therefore, O our brother Nemesius, the scarlet proclaimeth life. Now the spies said prophetically to Rahab the harlot, Thou shalt tie a thread of scarlet to the window. When they descended, having been well entreated by her, and through her they prefigured a certain matter, for the window symbolized the side of our Lord Christ, and the thread of scarlet his precious blood which produced life. And they, i.e. the Jews, wove a crown of spikes of thorn bushes and set it upon his head. And they arrayed him in royal apparel, not knowing what they were doing. And they bowed the knee and made obeisance to him, and they spake with their mouths without being compelled to do so, saying, Hail to thee, King of the Jews! Observe ye, O my brethren, that not even in his death did he lack his sign of royalty. And when the Jews and the soldiers who were in the servants of Herod and Pilate were struggling together to rend the tunic of Christ, divide it among them, they did so because they all eagerly desired the beauty of the sight thereof. And the centurion also who watched the cross himself testified before all the crowd, saying, Verily, this man is the son of Yahawah. And this centurion said unto them, The orders which have been given to me do not permit me to rend the apparel of royalty, but cast lots for it, and we shall see to whom it will come. And when the Jews and the soldiers of the king had cast lots, the lot fell upon one of the soldiers of Pilate. Now the tunic of our Lord had no seam, but had been woven whole in one piece. And whensoever there was a lack of rain in the place where it had been deposited and taken care of, the people used to bring out the tunic, and as soon as they lifted it up towards heaven, an abundance of rain fell. And also, whensoever the soldier who had received it lacked rain for his crop, he brought out the tunic, and it worked this miracle. Now the tunic was taken away by force from the man who got it by Pilate, who sent it to the Emperor Tiberius. To us this tunic indicateth the orthodox faith, which all the nations joined together are unable to cleave. 3 valuable gifts, in which there is nothing more valuable, were given to the Jews in olden time, namely royalty, priesthood, and prophecy. Prophecy by the hand of Moses, priesthood by the hand of Aaron, and royalty by the hand of David. These 3 gifts, which the generations and families of the children of Israel had enjoyed for many years, were taken from them in one day, and they were stripped of all 3 of them, and became aliens to them, that is to say, prophecy by the cross, priesthood by the rending of the tunic of Christ, and royalty by the crown of the thorns. Moreover, that spirit of compassion or propitiation which had dwelt in the temple, in the Holy of Holies, forsook them and departed. And the curtain or veil of the sanctuary was cleft in twain, and the Passover fled from them, for they never celebrated another Passover in it. And know, O my brethren, that when Pilate pressed them to go into the judgment hall, they said unto him, We are unable to go into the praetorium, because up to now we have not eaten the Passover. And when the sentence of death had been passed on our Lord by Pilate, they, the Jews, made haste and went into the sanctuary, and brought out from thence the carrying poles of the Ark of the Covenant, and out of them they made the cross of Christ. Verily, it was meant that these pieces of wood, which used to carry the covenant, should also carry the Lord of the covenant. The cross of Christ was formed of 2 pieces of wood, which were the same height and depth and length and breadth. And Paul the apostle labored exceedingly that the Gentiles might know what was the might of the cross, which embraced the height and depth and length and breadth of the earth. And when they raised up Christ, the lamp of light of all the earth, and set him upon the candlesticks of the cross, the light of the sun became dark and was extinguished, and a covering of darkness was spread over the whole earth. 3 nails were driven into the body of our Redeemer, 2 through his hands, and 1 through both his feet. And there were 2 thieves with him, one on his right hand and one on his left hand. And they handed out to him vinegar and gall in a sponge. By the vinegar which they gave unto him, it was made known concerning them that their will was changed from what it had been formerly, and that they had turned themselves from integrity into wickedness. And then by the gall was made known the bitterness of the accursed serpent which was in them. And they showed that they also had belonged to that good vineyard from which prophets and kings and priests, and they themselves had drunk. but because they had become wicked heirs who would not labor in the vineyards of my beloved, they produced husks instead of grapes, and the wine which they pressed out therein was sour. And having crucified their heir on the wood, they mixed some of the impurity of their wickedness with their sour wine, and gave him to drink of that wine from the vineyard of the Gentiles. But he would not drink, saying, Give me of that vine which my father brought out of Egypt. For Christ knew that the prophecy of Moses, which had been prophesied concerning them, had been fulfilled in them. For Moses said, Your grapes are grapes of gall, your clusters are bitter. Your poison is the poison of the serpent, and their head is that of a malignant viper. These are the things which ye render unto the Lord. Observe, my brother Nemesius, that the blessed Moses, with the eye of the Spirit, foresaw the things which they were going to do to Christ, and said, These are the things which ye render to the Lord. The congregation of the crucifiers was a decayed vine. Its daughters were bitter grapes, and its sons were clusters of gall. Their head was Caiaphas, the malignant viper, and they were all evil serpents, and all of them were filled with the venom of Satan, who is the evil serpent. Instead of the water of the rock which had been given to them to drink in the wilderness, they gave him vinegar to drink, and instead of manna, the gall of the quail. They did not give him a cup to drink from, but a sponge, so that they might show that the blessing of their fathers had been swept away from them. Now this is evident from what follows. When a vessel is empty and there is no wine in it, they wash and wipe it with a sponge. Even so did the Jews do when they crucified Christ, for with a sponge they wiped away and removed from themselves royalty and priesthood and prophecy and the religion of Christ, and gave them to Christ, and the vessels of their bodies, washed and empty, remained only. And the law and the prophets having been fulfilled, and Adam having been sent and seen the fountain of living water, which was poured out from above for his redemption, then was Christ smitten with the spear, and blood and water flowed down from his side, but they were not mingled with each other. For what reason did the blood come forth before the water? For two reasons. First, that through the blood life might be given unto Adam, and then after life and resurrection the water for his baptism. Secondly, that through the blood he might show that he was immortal, and through the water he might show that he was mortal, and a bearer of sufferings. The blood and the water ran down into the mouth of Adam, and Adam was redeemed, and put on a garment of glory. And Christ wrote the edict of his return with the blood of his own person, and dispatched it by the thief. And when an end had been made of everything, the writ of repudiation of the congregation was written, and the congregation became a thing cast aside, and it was stripped of its glorious raiment, even as in times of old David had, through the Holy Spirit, said and prophesied, saying, Even unto the horns of the altar. To this pass were
Jamathambe bheke phansi enyuka amathambe bheke phezulu oh yekaningisa baba yekaningisa